British nation and empire on the broadcast. In wartime, there's a lot to be said for the motto, deeds, not words. All the same, it is a good thing to look around from time to time and take stock. And certainly our affairs have prospered in several directions during these last 4 or 5 months, far better than most of us would have ventured to hope. We stood our ground and faced the two dictators in the hour of what seemed their overwhelming triumph. And we have shown ourselves capable, so far, of standing up against them alone. After the defeat of the German Air Force by our fighters in August and September, Herr Hitler did not dare attempt the invasion of the Thailand, although he had every need to do so, and although he had made vast preparations. Baffled in this grandiose project, he sought to break the spirit of the British nation by the bombing first of London and afterwards of our great city. It has now been proved, to the admiration of the world and of our friends in the United States, that this form of blackmail by murder and terrorism, so far from weakening the spirit of the British nation, has only roused it from all intent and the universal flame than was ever seen before in any modern. The whole British Empire has been proud of the mother country, and they long to be with us over here in even larger numbers. We have been deeply conscious of the love for us which has flowed from the dominions of the crown across the broad ocean. There is the first of our warriors, who is worthy of their love and who is dead. All through these dark winter months, the enemy has had the power to drop 3 or 4 tons of bombs upon us for every ton we could send to Germany in return. We are arranging so that presently this will be rather the other way around. But meanwhile, London and our big cities have had to stand their fountains. They remind me of the British squares at Waterloo. They are not squares of soldiers. They do not wear scarlet coats. They are just ordinary English, Scottish, and Welsh folk, men, women, and children, standing separately together. But their spirit is the same, their story is the same, and in the end, their victory will be greater than far-famed Waterloo. All honor to the civil defense services of all time, emergency and regular, volunteer and professional, who have helped our people through this formidable ordeal, the like of which no civilized community has ever been called upon to undergo. If I mention only one of these services tonight, namely the police, it is because many tributes have been paid already to the others. But the police have been in it everywhere, all the time. And as a working woman wrote to me in a letter, what gentlemen they are. More than 2/3 of the winter has now gone. And so far we have had no serious epidemic. Indeed, there is no increase of illness in spite of the improvised position of the Germans. That is most creditable to our local medical and sanitary authorities, to our devoted nursing staff, and to the Ministry of Health, who said, and you may have seen Mr. Malcolm MacDonald There is another thing which surprised me when I asked about it. In spite of all these new wartime offenses, the prosecutions of all time, in spite of all the opportunities for looting and disorder, there has been less crime this winter, and there are now fewer prisoners in our jails than in the years of peace. We have broken the back of the winter. The daylight grows. The Royal Air Force grows, and is already certainly master of the daylight air. The attack, the light. So, if our first victory was the repulse of the invader, our second was the frustration of his acts of terror and of torture against our people at home. Meanwhile, abroad, in October, a wonderful thing happened. Potatoes, the crafty, cold-blooded, black-hearted Italian, who had sought to gain an empire on the sheep by stabbing fallen France in the back, he got into trouble without the slightest provocation. Spurred on by lust of power and greed, Mussolini attacked and invaded Greece, only to be hurled back ignominiously by the heroic Greek army, who, I will say, with your assent, have revived before our eyes the glory which, from the classic age, gilded their native land. While Signor Mussolini was thriving and smarting under the Greek lash in Albania, Generals Weigel and Wilson, who were charged with the defense of Egypt and of the Suez Canal in accordance with our treaty obligations, not being at one time patriotic, they had received very powerful reinforcements. Reinforcements of men, guns, equipment, and above all tanks, which we have sent from our island in spite of the invasion threat. And large numbers of troops from India, Australia, and New Zealand had also reached them. Forthwith began that journey of victories in Libya, which had broken irretrievably the Italian military power on the African continent. We have all been entertained, and I trust any of them, by the exposure and humiliation of another of what Byron called those Hagar things of Seder, who thrust the brass and the day. Here then, in Libya, is the third considerable event upon which we may dwell with some satisfaction. It is just exactly 2 months ago, to a day, that I was waiting anxiously, but also eagerly, for the news of the great counterstroke which had been planned against the Italian invaders of Egypt. The secret had been well kept. The preparations had been well made. But to leap across those 70 miles of desert and attack an army of 10 or 11 divisions equipped with all the appliances of modern war, who had been fortifying themselves for 3 months, that was a most hazardous adventure. When the brilliant decisive victory at Sidi Barrani, with its tens of thousands of prisoners, proved that we had the quality, maneuvering power, and weapons superior to the enemy, who had boasted so much of his virility and his military virtues, it was evident that all the other Italian forces in eastern Libya were in great danger. They could not easily beat a retreat along the coastal road without running the risk of being caught in the ocean by our armored divisions and brigades, ranging far out into the desert in tremendous swoops their live, active armed men, British, Australian, Indian, in the Imperial Army, saw their opportunity. At that time, I ventured to draw General Wavell's attention to the 7th chapter of the Gospel of St. Matthew and the 7th verse, whereas you all know, or ought to know, it is written, ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. The army of the Nile has asked, given. They sought, and they have found. They knocked, and it shall be opened unto them. Barely 8 weeks, I have campaigned to a long discussion as a model of the military art, an advance of over 400 miles has been made. The whole Italian army in the east of Libya, which was reputed to exceed 150,000 men, has been captured or destroyed. The entire province of Cyrenaica, nearly as big as England and Wales, has been conquered. The unhappy Arab tribes who have for 30 years suffered from the cruelty of Italian rule, carried in some cases to the point of methodical extermination. These Bedouin survivors have at last seen their oppressors in disorderly flight, or led off in endless droves as prisoners of war. Egypt and the Suez Canal are safe, and the port, the base, and the airfields of Benghazi constitute a strategic point of high consequence to the whole of the war in the eastern Mediterranean. This is the time, I think, to speak of the leaders who, at the head of their brave group, have rendered this distinguished service to the king. The first and foremost, all the armies of the Middle East, and proved himself a master of war, sage, painstaking, daring, and tireless. But General Wavell has repeatedly asked that others should share his fame. General Wilson, who actually commands the army of the Nile, was reputed to be one of our finest tacticians, and few will now deny him that quality. General O'Connell, commanding the 13th Corps, with General Mackay, commanding the splendid Australian, and General Cray, trained and commanding the various armored divisions which were employed. These 3 men executed the complicated and astoundingly rash movements which were made and fought the action which occurred. I've just seen a telegram from General Wavell, in which he says that the success of Benghazi was due to the outstanding leadership and resolution of O'Connell and Cray, ably backed by Wilson. I must not forget here to point out the amazing mechanical feat of the British tank, whose design and workmanship have beaten all records, stood up to all trials, and show us how close and directly the work of the Axis shows is linked with the victories abroad. Of course, none of our plans dared to succeed, had not our pilots under Air Chief Marshal Longmore from the far more numerous enemy. Nor would the campaign itself have been possible if the British Mediterranean fleet under Admiral Cunningham had not chased the Italian Navy into its harbors and sustained every forward surge of the army with all the flexible resources of sea power. How far-reaching these resources are, we can see from what happened at dawn this morning, when our Western Mediterranean fleet under Admiral Somerville entered the Gulf of Genoa and bombarded in a shattering manner the naval base from which perhaps a Nazi German expedition might soon have sailed to attack General Weygand in Algeria or Tunis. It is right that the Italian people should be made to feel the sorry plight into which they have been dragged by dictator Mussolini. And the cannonade of Genoa rolling along the coast, reverberating in the mountains, has reached the ears of our French comrades in their grief and misery. It may cheer them with the feeling that friends, active friends, are near, and that Britannia rules the way. The events in Libya are only part of the story. They are only a part of the story of the decline and fall of the Italian Empire. That will not take a future Gibbon so long to write as the original work. 1,500 miles away to the southward, a strong British and Indian army, having driven the invader out of the Sudan, is marching steadily forward through the Italian colony of India, thus seeking to complete the isolation of all the Italian troops in Abyssinia. Other British forces are entering Abyssinia from the west, while the army gathered in Kenya, in the van of which we may discern the powerful forces of the Union of South Africa, organized by General Smuts, are striking northward along the whole enormous front. Lastly, the Ethiopian patriots, independence was stolen 5 years ago, have risen in arms, and their emperor, so recently in exile in England, is in their midst to fight for their freedom and his throne. Here then we see the beginning of a process of reparation and of the chastisement of wrongdoing, which reminds us that though the mills of God grind, they grind all. While these auspicious events have been carrying out side by side from what many people thought a forlorn position, and what certainly a very brave position, in May and June, to one which permits us to speak with sober confidence of our power to discharge our duty, heavy though it be, in the future. While this has been happening, a mighty tide of sympathy, of goodwill, and of effective aid has begun to flow across the Atlantic in support of the world cause which is at stake. Distinguished Americans have come over to see things here at the front, and to find out how the United States can help us best and soonest. In Mr. Hopkins, who has been my frequent companion during the last few weeks, we have the envoy of the President who has been newly re-elected to his august office. In Mr. Wendell Willkie, we have welcomed the champion of the great Republican Party. We may be sure that they will both tell the truth about what they have seen over here, and more than that we do not ask. The rest we leave with good confidence in the judgment of the President, the Congress, and the people of the United States. I have been so very careful since I have been Prime Minister not to encourage false hopes or prophesy smooth and easy things. And yet the tale